Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, and getting to creating the teaching video for you all this weekend and an orientation to things. Let me say firsthand, your our thanks, Mel and I thanks for all your prayers this week. Won't give you much in detail in this video, but many of you know we've had a challenging week, and things are better today, and we're gathering ourselves and our strength, and God's graciously seen us through some challenging things. So we appreciate your prayers for that, first and foremost. Just a few announcements as we think about the days ahead. We do have the Nick at Night block party coming up on Wednesday night. Just be praying for good turnout and communication. A little behind where I would want to be in terms of reaching out to people, but being that it's an event, it's just sort of a drop in and show and enjoy yourself for whatever time. Um, Probably even a last minute contact with people will work out. Going to try to have a flyer for you to take and pass out to anybody that you need to that are friends and family or contacts with young children. Um, so look for those probably out on the tables in the entry area on Sunday. We'll be meeting in Sunday in our simple churches in the four locations. We're going to continue to keep that habit as for the value that it has and the discussion and the relationships that are being formed there, and continue to meet all together once a month. So we'll have another one of those coming up in July. Probably, I think for sure on July 11th, that Sunday will be our all together Sunday coming up in July. So we'll be focusing on our study in First Principles, Book 2, Belonging to a Family of Families, in those small, simple churches. So continue to focus your energies on that and really, really learn together and develop that habit alongside the singing, worship, and um, talking together, eating together, and praying together for one another. There are habits that we need to have regularly that can only happen in that context. And so it's not just COVID that has determined that. Those are things that we've learned are very, very key and are always necessary among us. So please continue to devote your energy and attention to those simple church gatherings, especially as we study in this way, in this form of discussion, questions and answers in First Principles. We need to think about the fact that this is the way the early church met and gathered and learned together, and it's what turned the world upside down. And I believe, and we believe, it will turn the world upside down and our world upside down as we do these things again today. It's Christ's plan. We're seeing that in this study that we're in. And so first I wanted to give you a summary of where we've been over the last week as we went through session one. I was not able to take part in the Thursday night cohort, but thank Mark for leading that, and for those of you who participated, as well as in the Monday night cohort as well with Jonathan, and we'll continue to do that in these weeks as we get an opportunity to focus our attention, our hearts, and our minds around the Word in that way. But again, we'll have a team joining us in this coming week. Prior to that, tomorrow, Saturday morning from 9 to noon, won't be any longer than that. Hopefully it'll be shorter. We need to do a really quick cleanup of the Ed building. Nothing, very little has been done in there during this whole year of COVID. We have a team coming. We have things that need the Ed building's use now coming online, and we need to get things cleaned up and back into shape. So we'll be focusing on that tomorrow from 9 to 12. Appreciate anybody who can come out for however long to just help a number of odd things that need to be done in preparation for the Nick at Night events that start rolling out next week. Again, Nick at Night this year, we're going to be one night events, one night each month. So we'll have a June night, we'll have a July night, and an August night. Better than our 4 nights together. We're just still a little concerned that people may have awareness about the COVID situation and being with a large group of people multiple nights right in a row. So this coming Wednesday will be more of a carnival event, individual game stations and snow cones and things like that will just a fun opportunity for people to bring their kids and stay as long as they want. They don't have to stay for a whole program or anything like that. And we'll be starting to get some of that stuff out probably tomorrow morning as well to see how many stations we have and get all the stuff together prior to the team coming on Sunday. And then the work, part of the work that we need to do on Wednesday will be done. The water event for Nick and I, we'll have that. We'll have it in July when hopefully the weather's nice and hot and it's summer like, and we'll do a full-blown water event then, either in teams or just letting kids do individual things with water. We'll see how we work that out, but we'll be promoting that as well as a water activity event then, and then probably again a carnival / movie night in August as summer starts to wind. And we have dates set for that should be on the calendar, but I can remind you of them to be praying about them. So just be in prayer. Hopefully, if we could get 60 to 80 people out on Wednesday, that would be a great post-COVID activity to really start getting things in the community going as well. Another thing I was made aware of on Sunday, to celebrate the kids in the finishing of the school year, the Spanish church has ordered a ice cream truck that will be coming on site at the end of their service at 1:30. The ice cream trucks that roam around town, one of them will be here, and so you can take advantage of that if you want to, and bring your kids, or just come on site and hang out at that time. 1:30 on Sunday. That's sometime after we finish. But that'll be happening on Sunday afternoon. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Told the Spanish church invited us to be part of that if we would like as well. 4th of July is going to be on a Sunday this year. We'll have our simple churches in the morning, and then that evening, which we've come to call Patriots with Pie at the Parsonage. Parsonage is the way you refer to the pastor's house in old language, old times. We'll invite everybody over starting about 7:30 probably, because darkness gets in late. So 7:30, start up here in our backyard. Bring your favorite dessert, something for summer. We'll eat outside and watch the Clifton fireworks show. Usually starts about 9 o'clock, and maybe we have a few of our own. And if anybody wants to bring some, let me know. We'll get our show going earlier than that. Briefly here in the backyard, but plenty of room for everybody, and feel free to invite friends, bring a lawn chair. That's on July 4th, Sunday night, July 4th. We'll be having that here this year. It'll be great to be able to get back to that as well. Session 1 of Belonging to a Family of Families, we talked about the centrality of the church in Christ's plan. The passage we looked at last week and that we discussed in the Monday and Thursday night cohort is one of the most important in the whole New Testament. So much turns around it because we understand there the centrality of Christ's plan for the church's role in that plan, and the role that Paul played, and why we have so much from Paul. Paul was given the job of bringing the gospel, the good news of Jesus, to the Gentiles, that they're now part of God's covenant family, promised through Israel, and that's now been made possible by Christ, through Christ and by His Spirit, but that now they were now being formed into a new family that was a new people in the world, with a new lifestyle and a new way of living, and Paul is the one revealing that. His job specifically from Christ, unique to all the apostles, was to reveal that house law. That's what Paul is doing in his letters. Paul's letters are not there random things. They are carefully created as tools for establishing those churches in the blueprints of Christ's plan, and the early church recognized that and solved problems with that, and we saw that that's what Paul's doing in those letters. And so Paul plays a key role, and Paul's key role turns on the fact that the church is the central hub, like the bike hub or the hub of a wheel with spokes in Christ's plan in the world. And because it's Christ's mission to make disciples of all nations, and that's going to happen through His church, through the multiplication of churches. It's not about saving individuals. That's a means to an end. The end is seeing Christ's church planted all over the world where it is not, and multiplying, growing and multiplying. Um, and that involves going to the nations with the gospel message about Jesus as Lord, and their invitation now to join Christ's family through the forgiveness that He offers, and the place that they can have in His family by His Spirit, by baptizing them and identifying with that community, not only with the message of Jesus, but with the community of Jesus's family. That's what baptism is, and then teaching them, learning the first principles of Christ together, and obeying them together as individuals, families, as a community, and in their role in the world. Christ wants to accomplish this mission in the form of local churches. That's the centrality. That's what it means to have the church central to His mission. It's about the church, by the church, and through the church that God is going to accomplish His work, not by individuals, organizations, or any other thing. The church is where Christ only has one plan, a plan A, and that is through the local church. There is no other means that is the key instrument of God in the world for the accomplishing of His mission. The church is it. The church is a unique thing. It is the only one with that mandate in the New Testament, none other. Everything has to be brought in line with that. And unfortunately, that has been blown apart into all sorts of different pieces and different things that we do in the name of Christ, or as if they are as important to Christ's plan as that the church is among one of those things. It is the thing. The mission of establishing and multiplying churches is the mission. There is no other mission. There are no missions. There is one mission, and that is it. Everything else must serve that or be a result of that. That is a very, very important concept to understand in the New Testament story and as the centrality of the plan of Christ. Very, very important, and an idea and a concept that a vast majority of Christians today in North America, especially in churches, do not understand and have completely missed in the New Testament because they've not understood this passage and its central role in the New Testament. So that's why this last week was such an important discussion, and the first discussion in belonging to a family of families. He wants to create these beautiful, harmonious communities of disciples in which He Himself will dwell, and through Him He will demonstrate His eternal wisdom. That this is the way God is bringing humanity back together, not by the way that human beings try through force or manipulation or economics or whatever the case may be. But even the beings in the unseen realm will be able to look at the church and say, there's the wisdom of God right there. There's how wise our God is. Only He can do that. Only the true God, the true Creator, can do that. That's our calling. That's who we are. That is what we've been invited into by the gospel and by virtue of the work of Jesus and His Spirit. So very important that you understand this as the context in which we are followers of Jesus. Implications. Here's some of the implications that I wrote down in my Apply the Principles for last week's session. I need to live a life that is consistent with the entire mission of Christ. Jesus' mission is my life mission. That's what that means. I don't do my thing and then participate in what Jesus is doing. I am part of what Jesus is doing. That has to be the mindset of a disciple. I have to be given to the building of Christ Church as my life purpose and central to my life purpose, and grow mature as a disciple in the context of that community. I need to realize that to be obedient to Christ, I must be part of a local church community, actively seeking to participate with others in the overall mission of Christ. We're in this together, and I cannot follow Christ apart from other people, because that's what Jesus has called me to and how He wants to work through us and through me. I must be seeking and learning the details of Christ's plan for His churches and contributing to the realization of those things in my local church and assisting local churches as well. Here's where my particular, if you want to call it calling or stewardship, I like that which God has given me to care for, involves multiple churches. Hence the nature of my role with Albanian churches and doing things in other places. That's something also that has emerged over time as part of God's direction for my life, specifically to me, but it's still rooted in the local church. I don't function and have my life purpose or my life work independent of the local church. It's still rooted in that, even though it may extend to other churches or a network of churches, much like Paul was doing in his team. That's where I get the model for what I do. participating in a local church, but with a focus on the global work of a network of churches. All this is to the end that God's wisdom will be displayed in our one-minded devotion to his purpose, and he will be glorified. You want to glorify God? You want to do his will? Follow him into his church and fully and completely immerse yourself and let it be central to your life purpose. That's what God's will is. That's what God's plan is. That's what Christ died for and put into motion with his death, burial, and resurrection and the work of his Spirit in the world today. And that's what Christ is going to come and complete and finish. So we're on mission with him, but mission that's specifically focused on the centrality of his church locally, wherever we are, and participation together with others like us. So hopefully that gives you some conclusion. I hope you've written down some of your thoughts that you'll share even on Sunday about last week's study in session 1 there in Ephesians 2:18 to 3:11. A absolutely key passage. Keep a marker, highlight in your Bible that one you need to always know and understand what's going on there, because it is orienting to so many other things in the New Testament. Another way we might summarize this is that the church is the center of Christ's plan for this era. It was previously unrevealed, but now it has been revealed in detail through Paul and the apostles. The cornerstone of the church is Christ. The foundation was laid by the apostles and prophets and is now being built into a worldwide community of believers, both Jews and Gentiles. You should develop your own summary of this passage and what the first principle is. What is this passage revealing as a first principle of Christ, or a set of key ideas that every believer needs to have central to their thinking, or be part of their thinking, or in this case central to their thinking, as God's intent through the scripture that we're reading, that we need to read it in that light and with that in purpose. What is the general principle here? What is this intended to say, and how I'm intended to orient myself? What's its significance for me and for us together? So I hope you get a sense of that. Put that in your own words, and we'll talk more about it. If you have questions or thoughts on how that unfolded in the first century, we can talk about it as well. I did want to share also the beginning of this next session that we're going to be in. So let me do that right now, and you should be seeing my screen. Now we're moving into session 2 and focusing not on the wider plan and the role of Paul here. We kind of looked at the big picture in the last session. Now we're getting down to the nature of the local church that we're all familiar with and part of, and know and recognize as part of others. What is it that we all have in common? What is the local church at its essence? What is it really? And that's what we're getting into in this passage and in this session. And you can see with the title, it's right there in front of us. The church as a family of families. What does that mean? What does that not mean? What are the implications of that? You need to have these things in mind when we talk about this. One of the things to keep in mind is this a metaphor or a reality that we are talking about? And what's the difference? And why does that make a difference? Are we talking about the church as a metaphor? It's like a family? Or are we talking about a reality? It is a family. How do those two things play out and against each other? And why is it significant that we have a clear distinction between the two and focus on one and not the other, as what this passage is saying? Here's the introductory paragraph, and that is this. In the last session, we saw that Paul had a special role in revealing Christ's administration for his church. The term administration, you remember, refers to a plan or the house order or house law, we say for Christ's church. Oikonomos is that Greek word that is translated administration or plan most often. Side note, the Albanians have a great expression that I often use to describe this. Wherever you have a house with a roof, there are rules, there are regulations. And if you think about the church as a family of families, then that means it's like a house. It's like an individual family. It's like a home. A home has a way in which it operates. That's what that expression means. Shtipia me tegula, chatia me tegula, shtipia me regula. If there's a house with a roof on it, it means there's a home with order to it. And that's a very, very wise and a very perceptive way of describing what the church is meant to be. Not that it's the building that forms that, but it's the sense of the church as a family, as a home, as a household. And that's really what this passage is getting to. One of the questions that logically follows deals with the details of the plan. How specific does Paul get concerning Christ's administration for his church, his household? So how far down into detail? What shape does the New Testament give to this? The idea of a household is central to Paul's thought in the letters to his young faithful leaders, Timothy and Titus, who were part of his missionary team. He wrote 3 letters, 2 to Timothy and 1 to Titus, specifically around this idea of the church as the household of God. The passage that we will study in this session is 1 Timothy 3, 14 to 16. Many believe that this passage is at the heart of Paul's entire discussion in the pastoral epistles. The pastoral epistles include all of his letters to Timothy and Titus, 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus as well. I am convinced of that as well. This passage in this session is an orienting passage to all 3 of these letters. This is what's in Paul's mind, and he's giving expression to and detail to what this actually means, what it means to be the household of God. So the passage itself is 1 Timothy 3, 14 to 16. It's one you may be very familiar with, but good for me to read it out as well. So let me get it here. I thought I had it firsthand, but it won't take but a second to get it here in front of you. So 1 Timothy 3, 14 to 16. A little bit of context. Timothy's in Ephesus, where Paul has spent a couple of years, but Timothy has been left there or sent back there to sort of put things in order and to deal with some issues in the church in Ephesus, which is not one church, but likely a network, not likely, it is, a network of house churches that constitute the church in Ephesus. So when Paul writes a letter to Ephesus, he writes a letter to what he considers one church, but made up of many churches meeting in homes, and this letter would circulate, or the details of information of it, like all of his letters, would circulate among the number of houses where churches were meeting in that place and time. So some may have 1 or 2 churches meeting in homes, house churches. Others, like a large city of Ephesus or Rome, would have multiples. And a letter would circulate among them via the leaders or via someone like Paul coming to town and meeting with each and every one of them, or using the leaders in each one of them to see that these things are taught. Paul is sending this letter to Timothy to deliver teaching to all of that network of house churches in Ephesus. He's already started this chapter in 1 Timothy 3. He's talked about, he gives a charge to Timothy and the nature of the work and why he's there in Ephesus, and what he wants the church in general to do, to be about praying for government officials, being careful in their relationships with one another. And he starts talking about the criteria for leaders, both local leaders, elders, deacons, leading women, women who are deacons. He talks about that in the first part of this, and then he breaks back again and says, okay, well, why am I writing this? And that's what these passages say. He says, Timothy, I'm writing these things to you, even though I hope to be with you soon. So Timothy's there. Paul sent a letter on ahead of himself, knowing that he may be delayed, so that if I am delayed, you will know how people must conduct themselves in the household of God. This is the church of the living God, which is the pillar and foundation of the truth. Without question, this is the great mystery of our faith. Christ was revealed in a human body and vindicated by the Spirit. He was seen by angels and announced to the nations. He was believed in throughout the world and taken to heaven in glory. And that concludes chapter 3 in these instructions. And Paul goes on to give other instructions about different kinds of people, widows, older men, younger men, other such things. Other matters in both 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, but also in Titus. Titus chapter 2 is another one I think we'll see later on in this study, where you see these things really right in full flower, giving instructions about the household nature of this community called the church. So based on that passage, read it through yourself. Pull out the core ideas. Pull out the things that you You believe Paul's intending to say here to Timothy and how Timothy was taking them. What was he supposed to understand? What is it? What was its implications for the church? What are the big ideas? And these questions will help you. Why did Paul write to Timothy? What do you think he had in mind when he referred to conduct in the household of God? What's he actually talking about there? Give some thought to that and be ready to talk about it on Sunday. What is the role of a local church in regards to guarding the truth? That's mentioned here. What does that actually mean? Let's talk about that. What does the passage say about the church's role in preserving the gospel? What do we learn here about the connection between what Paul is doing and the instructions to Timothy and the idea we saw last week about the church being the centerpiece of Christ's plan? How does that idea carry over into this one? How is this one working together with that one? Those are not two separate things. They're building on each other, or one is kind of inside each other. Think through how that relationship works, and because we're not seeing what we did last week and this week as separate things. They're ideas that are nested inside one another or connected in very, very careful ways, because we're talking about sort of the largest concept, Christ's plan, the centrality of the church, and being part of a network of churches. That's the big picture. Now Paul's talking about the specifics for a local church in a strategic city like Ephesus here. So these are the things then that we need to apply then to us today and say, okay, nothing has changed here. Has Christ's plan changed? Is his intention different? Has the New Testament give us any instruction that it's not to be this way, but it's to be that way? So please think through those things, and let's give some thought to it, and we'll discuss this together during our time on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. So thanks for watching this. I'll conclude and look forward to seeing you all. Again, those of you who can come and help out with the cleanup tomorrow from 9 to 12, we'll do that quickly and get home. Shouldn't take that long, but we do want to make sure we give a good thorough going through the Ed building and get ready for the summer ahead and other things that we're going to be using that building for. It's just not been really touched during COVID time, and there may be a few other odd things outside we need to do, but I think that's going to be the primary focus tomorrow. So again, have a great weekend, great Friday, and see you all Sunday at 10 a.m. We will have Zoom at noon following that. So those of you who can or need to will meet at Zoom at noon. That'll all be in the link in the usual through the email on Sunday morning prior to us gathering together. So see you all then. God bless and have a great weekend.